Easy for your time. I think that's all we have. I could ask you questions all day, so appreciate you sitting down with me. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Anita. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hi, how are you? It's great to have you.
We're okay.
I can't hear you, I think.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we're good now. Yes, well, CZ, you have certainly made a lot of headlines this week and just in general. And as soon as this morning, I saw that Binance had suspended deposits of USDC and USDT on Solana. So I just wanted to start there asking you about the news. Why did you make the decision to do that?
Actually, I'm not sure of the details on that one. Our team made the decision. I would assume there were some issues with Solana network or something. I don't know the details, actually. I was at a conference in Milken in Abu Dhabi while that happened. So I actually need to ask.
Got it. I saw you met Paris Hilton at the conference. It's really fun.
Yeah, I'm seeing her later for drinks.
Yeah, but look, all eyes have been on you this week, obviously, and there's been a lot said about the sort of, Binance and FTX situation. FTX is collapsing now. And I'm just curious, how do you feel this will hurt your business?
Oh, yeah. It will hurt our business and the industry in multiple ways, and the consumers. Well, first of all, many consumers are really hurt financially. They have money stuck on FTX, etc. That's going to really shake confidence in trust, credibility in this industry. So now people withdrawing funds from centralized exchanges, and the volume will decrease. The regulators all around the world will be scrutinizing us very heavily going forward. And getting new licenses around the world is going to become much harder. So we'll have a lot more education to do. We do need to increase transparency of our businesses significantly. That itself is actually probably a good thing. So this is going to be like a lot of impact. Short-term negative, long-term I actually think many of them are actually going to be positive.
How dependent is your business on trading volumes for revenue?
Well, that's pretty much 90-something% of our revenue. So it goes up and down with the Bitcoin price. The Bitcoin price is pretty much an industry index. And being a larger player in the industry, we follow that pretty closely. But we're okay. So we still run a profitable business today. We're okay, yeah.
The one thing that I can't seem to get out of my head is after watching all of this unfold, I mean, I know you've talked about this before, but surely you must have seen some of this coming, right? When we made those tweets, I mean, it had such a huge impact, and you've been in the industry for a long time.
So some of them, I can do mental mathematics and kind of have some suspicions, but it's very difficult to not understand what's going on in a different platform, in a different business. For me, I was very surprised by the amount of money that they lost and the amount of customer funds they moved and the state of things there. I mean, before this, I can do some mental mathematics. Based on our revenue, we can and our relative size, and we can estimate their revenue, which is quite small because they charge lower fees. We know most of their public spendings. We know how much they spend on, stadium naming rights, referee jerseys, marketing budgets, etc. We also know how much funds they raised, which is not much, to be honest. And then we also know we kind of have a rough idea, but we never know for sure because they could be doing something different.
Right. I guess, did you know that your words would have such a large impact on the market?
Absolutely not. I thought, look, we're just selling some FTT tokens, and it wasn't a huge stash. It was like 3% of the total supply, and we said we're going to sell it over a period of months.
Sure, but you're highly influential in the crypto industry. Surely you must have seen it coming, right? That all of this would set off a firestorm. No,
actually, honestly, I do not think it. I still don't think I have that much influence. I think we were the last straw that broke the camel's back. It's not the straw that's really, really strong. This thing has been building up. There's a long chain of events that led to this. People have been losing trust in FTX. Many other people were suspicious of the activities going on. So there was many things that's building up to this thing where we may or may not have been the last trigger. It may be something else. To be honest, even if I didn't make that tweet, this whole thing could still happen. So it's not to say the last straw that have such impact. So it was the buildup of the lack of trust in FTX and people's suspicions. People don't like the way that the DeFi regulations were proposed by them. There's a whole bunch of stuff that built up to it. I may have happened to be the last thing that poked it.
So you were talking earlier about how you are pretty dependent as an exchange on trading revenues. Are you planning on diversifying that at all? I mean, how are you going to prevent against that sort of risk of revenues falling because people don't have confidence in crypto anymore?
So if we want to diversify our revenues today, we can quite easily do that. We have quite a large number of portfolio products. We have CoinMarketCap. When we acquired CoinMarketCap, they were making $3 million per month in ad revenues. We removed all ads. So there's no banners, no pop-ups, no other projects advertising the ICO on CoinMarketCap. It's a much cleaner experience. We can turn that back on. That'll give us $40 million a year. But we don't need to today. We have Trust Wallet. We can charge a little fee for transactions. We don't need to. So I think today we're still profitable. We're still very healthy. And we want to lower the barrier, the friction for people using crypto tools. We want to get more people to use crypto. So today we don't see the need. But if we do, we have many products. Right now we're single revenue, but we're not single product. We have many products we provide for free, to increase the speed of adoption. But if we want to monetize those, we could.
And is that something you see happening maybe in the short term as some of the pain continues with FTX and there's more fallout?
No, I don't foresee that happening anytime in the short term. I think we're still very healthy financially. We're quite solid. We have a fairly large cash reserves, which we use for acquisitions, investments, and helping other projects. On a day-to-day operations, we're still profitable. So I don't see any need for turning on other revenue matrices. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about reserves later, but first, you mentioned this point on regulation. In your opinion, are there any regulations that could have prevented the FTX collapse?
I wouldn't say prevent 100%, but it could have reduced the chance of that happening. If we had stronger audit on reserves, on how money is used, how client funds are saved, if we had more of those mechanisms, this thing probably could have been prevented or reduced. It's never 100%. When a guy wants to lie, there's many different ways he could fake the data, give you false information, etc. So I think regulations help, but it's never 100%.
Is better auditing of reserves something you would recommend regulators start doing and start implementing?
I do. So we do recommend that. But understand that FTX has been gap audited in the US, right? So they somehow fake that and somehow fool the auditors. So just in this particular case, I'm not sure. I think those things, more audits are really good, but I'm not sure if they will prevent this particular case because we never know how this one guy will react to that.
So I want to ask about this industry recovery fund that you are putting together. Do you know at this point what the size of that is projected to be?
With different numbers being, so it's not set in stone, different numbers being thrown around. I've seen numbers around $2 billion, etc. I'm not sure if that's enough or that's too much. We like to take a more flexible approach where, let's look at how many projects do need this money and how many good projects we can identify. There may be a lot of projects that, that they just want money, but they may not be good enough for us to put funds in. We want to help the strong projects that are just in a cash crunch. So we don't know how many they are completely yet. So as time goes on, we need to talk to each of these projects and find out more. Yeah.
I know one of the big considerations with FTX, when they were bailing out all of these other crypto exchanges that were having trouble, was that they were sort of doing that in order to cover up some of their own issues. And I'm curious, watching Binance sort of try to do the same thing and bail out other players in the industry, what is in it for you?
When the industry gets bigger, our revenue gets bigger. So we want to save it. We don't want the industry to become smaller. When FTX did some deals like Voyager, FTX, when we were bidding on Voyager, we saw all the data. FTX owed Voyager 530 million US dollars. We were bidding on Voyager at the same time, but we don't owe Voyager any money. So we don't owe anybody else in the industry any money. So, but we still want to save the good players in the industry so that the negative impacts in the industry is minimized. Consumers are protected, and then consumer confidence returns. Hopefully, the industry will continue to grow.
Will you be compensated for providing those funds directly in any way?
Well, there's different ways to get compensation. We can take equity, we can ask for other things, or we can just say, look, so some projects, for example, if it's a blockchain development project, so open source system, we may just say we give grants all the time too. So the different projects may have different situations.
And you're considering all of those options at this point for the fund?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
There have been rumors that you are looking into bailing out Genesis. Is that something you are considering at this point?
I can't comment on specific deals. I would assume that they would be NDAs in place, but we are looking at a large number of projects in the space. Almost every project that you hear about in the news, they would have talked to us.
Got it. You know, I think one big question that has come to people's minds is just, you know, if this happened to FTX and they fell so far so fast, you know, what's to say that the same couldn't happen to Binance? And you know, your balance sheet has billions of dollars worth of your own tokens on it as well. So doesn't that make you vulnerable to the same issue that FTX was vulnerable to?
That's absolutely a valid concern. I think all of those, and that concern applies to every business, not just in crypto. So I think as consumers, when we're using platforms, especially if you're storing money onto a platform, including a bank, you should ask those questions. So I think those are very valid questions. But in the blockchain world, things can be much more transparent. So we're doing that proof of reserves, which using like Merkle tree so that people can verify that the assets are included, and we have full reserves. And so so there are many ways to be more transparent. We published our cold wallet addresses. We are now working with multiple regulators all around the world on how to do this audit more transparently and more automatically. So we're doing a number of those things, but every user should verify on their own. And if you don't trade often and you can hold crypto on your own, do hold crypto on your own. But holding crypto on your own also have certain risks. So yeah, but we want to be as transparent as possible. The risk is always there. But I think today, Binance, we have 100% reserve for user assets. Operating assets are completely separate. We have a large reserve for that as well. So I think, knock on wood, we are in a we're in a very different situation than FTX. But just because one company is mismanaged in an industry doesn't mean every other company is mismanaged. But people should.
Well, that's true, but that is the concern, right? If there's the same sort of vulnerability. Yes. I mean, you have talked a lot about transparency in the past week or so, and you know, yes, you've released the proof of reserves, but at the end of the day, you're still a private company. You're banned from operating in the UK. You're under investigation in the US for money laundering, right? Like, how can users sort of trust you, given all of that?
Don't take information from Rubini verbatim. Those are wrong information. I cleared it up today in the Abu Dhabi conference. Binance is not banned from operating in the UK. Binance does not have a license to operate in the UK. That's different from being banned.
Sure.
UK, right, as a Commonwealth country, allows reverse solicitation. As long as we don't solicit, like advertise in UK, if a UK user come to us, it's fine.
But why don't you have the license?
We're the most licensed platform in the world globally. We have 15 licenses globally. Many countries haven't issued that many licenses. So that's just a state of things today in the world. We are working collaboratively with the FCA. We have ongoing dialogues with them. We would like to get the license, but today we haven't got it yet. But we're not banned. Those things are different. So don't take what the news too verbatimly. And in the U.S., we have Binance US has 44 state licenses. 10 of them are granted in the last 12 months. So that basically shows you the status of things in the U.S. But yeah, sorry, what was your question?
Yeah, I guess all I'm asking you is, given this backdrop of all of these different sort of maybe issues going on with regulators in certain countries, how can users be certain they can trust you? When you speak about transparency, how do they know that you're actually being transparent?
Yeah, so having a license increases trust, but it's not a 100% thing. It's just that it doesn't, like many licensed entities. Madoff is a licensed fund manager, and they lost 10x more than FTX. So having a license increases trust, but it's not guaranteed. Trust is still built over time with your actions and with your technology. We in this industry, we have many technologies that can allow people to verify on their own. So with those technologies being more and more deployed, I think the trust will increase. So trust is not a like simple one flip switch. FTX has many licenses in the world, and guess what? They were lying.
Right.
So yeah, so I think there's many different aspects to trust, but I think as long as we continue to operate ethically, transparently, and always protect our users. Our users are pretty smart these days. Like information, social media is pretty fast and pretty good. So yeah, I think there's no magic solution, and we just got to earn it over time.
What more besides releasing proof of reserves needs to be done for companies to regain trust in crypto? I mean, one thing that comes to mind is even crypto.com had released their proof of reserves, but now there are some questions being raised about the legitimacy of those. I mean, is releasing your proof of reserves, first of all, is that enough? And second of all, is there anything more that needs to be done in your view?
Oh yeah, so publishing your cold wallet addresses is just one first. Actually, it's a one short-term temporary method. It's actually not a. It definitely doesn't mean like just because you publish your cold wallet addresses, you're 100% guaranteed. And as we have seen in certain cases, they actually increases the amount of questions when things don't really add up. And proof of reserve is not the only one. How secure is your wallet structure, infrastructure? What kind of technologies do you use? Your custody solution. There's many things that needs to be done. Even how you handle customer disputes. In which situations do you compensate users or not compensate users? All of these things are like topics that needs to be addressed over time. So there's many topics, but a week ago, people were very focused on loans, stable coins, because that's USD Luna. But now, given FTX, now this focus, the latest focus will be on reserves. But there's many other things we do need to focus on. We may or may not be, as an industry, fully focused on them yet. But people learn from recent events. So that's kind of how we evolve. Yeah.
All those measures that you just talked about are those things that Binance has already released?
Pretty much. I mean, we have a very good, we operate at scale. So we believe best practices for all of these things. And we actually would like to share many of them to make them industry standards, like how we manage wallets. And I think we have one of the most secure technologies for managing wallets. And we also manage the largest wallet in the world. So we'd like to share some of those best practices. So there's many things we would like to share, but we can only do one thing at a time. Today is proof of reserves for the next couple of weeks. We'll get that done, and then we'll move on to the next one. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I want to zoom out a little bit and talk about the theme of decentralization. I think a lot of people in the past week have seen decentralized exchanges as a solution to some of the vulnerabilities that FTX was facing. I know you have said in the past that you sort of believe both can coexist, but how is that possible?
So look, in a decentralized world, if you and I collaborate together and form a company or form whatever, right? That's centralization. So in an extreme fully decentralized world, everyone's on their own. That's the most decentralized distributed.
But in that world, do you have a business? Because Binance is a centralized exchange, right?
Maybe not, but that's a hypothetical situation. But people will work together. As soon as two people work together, is that centralization or not? That is kind of centralization. And if a company of 2,000 people works together and they build a platform that many other people like to use, in a free market, there will be some centralization. And so decentralization doesn't mean everyone just are completely isolated and everyone's equal. That's communism. That's different from capitalism. That's different from free market. So this decentralization versus centralization concept should be viewed in a balance. Today, we have centralized entities in both the traditional financial world and also in the also in the crypto world. And tomorrow, it's going to be the same thing. Hopefully, over time, the technology will allow more of the tasks to be able to be done by individuals, so that we are moving towards decentralization. Today, if you ask everybody in the world who does not have crypto to hold crypto on their own, they're not technically capable of doing that. I think you and I know that already, right?
Right.
So if we just force people to go from banks directly to DeFi,